In your bulletins there, we've been handing out these daily devotionals, and by no means are you obligated to do this. This is something that actually my wife and I do. We read the Psalms every day, it's usually in the morning and then at night. Sometimes the thing about the Psalms is that they can sometimes even be a little bit confusing because they are written so emotionally. In many cases, they're written by people that are struggling, people that are celebrating, but people that are just giving whatever they feel to God. I want to, actually, today is the 7th, right? Let's just take a look at Psalm 12 here. If you'll indulge me, I'll read this to you. This is from the Psalm, this is from David. Help, Lord, for no one is faithful anymore. Those who are loyal have vanished from the human race. Everyone lies to their neighbor. They flatter with their lips, but harbor deception in their hearts. May the Lord silence all flattering lips and every boastful tongue. Those who say, by our tongues we will prevail, our own lips will defend us. Who is Lord over us? Because the poor are plundered and the needy groan, I will now arise, says the Lord. I will protect them from those who malign them, and the words of the Lord are flawless, like gold refined 7 times. You, Lord, will keep the needy safe and will protect us forever from the wicked who freely strut about, when what is vile is honored by the human race. What is vile and honored by the human race? You know, this is David when in very troublesome times. You think we have times that are bad now in our world. This was at a time when his own son was persecuting him and trying to kill him, to take over the crown, to take over the throne. And he's pleading to God. He's saying, where is the world at today? What has happened to this world that everything is vile, that people are boasting that anything that they do in this world is of their own regard, and they boast in their lyings, they boast in their treachery, but yet God still prevails. It's not something that we usually start off a hymn with when we say that. But, you know, it's interesting because it gives us permission. By the Psalms, we have permission to feel. We have the permission to feel anger. We have the permission to feel hopeless. We have the permission to feel lost. We have the permission to feel that the world is going down the tubes and we're not sure exactly what's going to happen about it. I think that our world is kind of similar to that now. I think that if you look around in our world right now, it seems like there's a lot of craziness going on. Not only are there bad things going on in our world and enemies persecuting good people, but there's just weirdness going on, isn't there? There are people that are worshiping themselves more than they're worshiping Christ. There are people that are worshiping what they have more than they're worshiping Christ. And there are people in this world that don't even know who Christ is. It's crazy out there. It's crazy, scary crazy. You know, I usually try to balance, but I'll tell you right now, I'm going to have my King David moment here. We're in trouble. The world has kind of gone to pot a little bit, and people are not fleeing to God as much as we should be fleeing to God. We should be running to Him as fast as possible. We should be living most of our lives on our knees. We should be teaching by example. We should be the people that are saying Christ first and only Christ. But our world seems to have lost its way. Now, I may sound ultra-conservative here, but boy, I think we need church more than we ever needed it before. I think that we should have these pews filled to the brim every day. Churches like this should be doing 3 or 4 services a day because we should be packed, because people should be coming for their answers right here. They should be coming to worship God right here. And when I say church, I don't mean just this building. I mean churches across America. I mean churches across the world. I mean every one of them should be filled instead of dying off the way that they're doing it. I'm about ready to go to annual conference. I'll be gone all week in Wichita, Kansas, spending the week trying to stay awake. I mean, as pastors listening to pastors, it's the worst. But the one thing that you can bet that we will talk about is another church will have closed its doors. Another church will have died off, where people just didn't come anymore, where it didn't support itself. And we have to make this vote to okay the death of a church. That's the worst thing about annual conference. And it happens, ever since I've been a pastor, it's happened every conference. Sometimes it's more than one. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 that we actually have to vote and say, okay, we have to pass this on to somebody else or sell the building or do something. I will tell you right now, I never vote yes. I never vote yes. I never get my vote, but I never vote yes. Because to me, churches should never close the doors. Churches should always be open. This week we had 2 funerals. We also had WIC here servicing children. As a matter of fact, at the same time that we were having a funeral up here, there were children getting medical attention downstairs. It was beautiful. You know why it was beautiful? Because people were getting served. People were coming here to see Christ, and they were finding Christ in this building. That's what it's really all about. And it's something so simple, I don't know why the world doesn't see that. Now, forgive me for saying, when I say that I am acting conservatively here, that people are going crazy, that they're going nuts, that they're choosing their own ideas, and they are falling, and they are not falling to their knees in a church, and they need church. What the world needs more is God. Please don't think of this as a political agenda. Because, see, we've kind of lost our way there, too. Because, see, we keep thinking that if we just vote the right people into power, they'll take care of it for us. Or if we just sit here and watch the news every day and just say, oh, that's just terrible, that somehow it's going to fix itself. Well, it's not. If we continue to put our faith into people or to things or into agendas, it's not going to fix itself. Nothing is going to change from what it's doing now. As a matter of fact, that's why we're in the trouble that we are now. Because by doing that, we are the ones that are not seeking Christ first. I don't care who the president is. I don't care who's in charge. Christ is in charge of them. That's who I pray about. I don't care who is in the White House. I don't care who is on the news. I don't care who is in charge of the church itself. Christ is in charge of everything. And it's important for me to start out on my knees every day and beg Christ to take control over whoever is guarding whatever. And that's challenging. Because that means we have to put in our faith into God. And when we put our faith into God, we have to pray and love on whoever is out there. You see, the key to being a Christian means that we are the ones that say, yes, you need Christ every day. Yes, the world is just gone down the toilet. Yes, we are in trouble. But what makes us Christians is that we welcome and pray for those that don't know that. We welcome and pray for those that haven't learned what we've learned yet. We welcome and pray for those that are running around lost. We pray for those enemies. We pray for the ones that are causing the problem, the ones that are causing the problems that we fight against every day. As Christians, we got to love them too. You ever heard love the person, not the behavior? That's what Christianity really is. You know, it's like when I said when Christ would take a demon out of a person, he would never chastise the person. He was always going after the demon within that person. And man, we got some demons out here in this world today. And we better be on our knees and we better be praying for the people that are being overcome by those demons. Not hate the people, but hate that demon inside of them. What I'm talking about here is faith. What I'm talking about here is a loss. You know, I have had a lot of people. I have not been a great person most of my life. I have been one of those people that you guys would say, oh, he's in trouble. He's part of the problem. To this day, I still have, for some reason, about every 5 or 6 years ago, about every 5 or 6 years in my life, people just start hating me. And I don't know why that is. My wife says that she doesn't know why it is. Of course, she's not my first wife. I have others that will tell you why that is. I have flaws and issues, and I have to continually remind myself of that, because the people that I am thinking are part of the problem, if I'm not praying and loving on them, then I am part of the problem. If I'm not welcoming the stranger, then I am the stranger. If I'm not loving my neighbor, then I am not being a neighbor. We are reading the book of Luke right now, and we are in chapter 9, verses 10 through 20. We have repeated the same message every Sunday since I have been here, and that is God is grace. God is love, and it is our job to share that grace and love. And when your neighbor comes after you or somebody attacks you, for generations we have learned that the worst thing to do is go back after them. We have underestimated kindness in our world. We have underestimated love. We have underestimated grace. And because of that, we are underestimating Christ himself, because that's what he's all about. And that's real important for us to understand. That when somebody in this world is acting crazy, or if a politician is doing something we don't agree with, or if a personal person is actually coming right after us, our job is to react in love. Our job is to react in peace. Our job is to react in kindness. Our job is to be above it and be Christian. What's happening in this story right now is that Jesus has come back into a town that knows him, and the crowds are waiting for him because they've heard of the wonderful things that he's done. And they are following him and the disciples. Just last week, remember that he sent his immediate 12 out, and he sent them out and he said, don't take anything with you, but spread the good news. They are coming back now and they're saying, this is amazing. There's amazing things that are happening here. I was able to heal this person. I was able to actually take away a disease from somebody. I cast out a demon. And they're also hearing stories of, these guys didn't want anything. It was scary. It was humiliating. They kicked me out. They didn't want anything that I had to say. They didn't want me. They're hearing both sides. Because they're spreading the good news. Some people want it, some people don't. They come back. Jesus is walking, and he's got hundreds of people now following him. Hundreds of people that want to hear, get a glimpse of him, touch his cloak, get healed by him, see what this man has to say. There are some that are curious. There are some that are just there to mock him. There are some there that are there to challenge whether or not he knows what he's talking about. Either way, there are over 500 people here. That's just, now the Bible is very chauvinistic in some ways because it says 500 men, not and plus women. Well, that's silly. So you can bet that when they say 500 men, they're talking about a lot of people. They're talking about a lot of people. They're all following him. And the day is starting to turn into night. And the disciples are getting very concerned because, you see, they have followed Jesus on this journey, and he's kind of taken them out into the, away from the city here, a little bit out into nature there, and he's kind of talking to them a little bit. And the disciples are looking around, and they're saying, it's getting towards evening. We don't have anything to eat. We're in trouble. There's over 500 people here that are going to be hungry pretty soon. What are we going to do with them? What are we going to do to feed these people? What are we going to do with this? See, in other words, they were just like you and I are right now. What are we going to do with this world? What are we going to do? There's enemies here that are criticizing us, and now they're getting hungry, and so we've proved to them that we don't know what we're doing. We've led them into a place where they can't even be fed. There's people over here that are waiting to be saved, and they are going hungry. There's people over here that their babies are getting cranky because they are hungry. What are we going to do? Jesus has led us into a place of chaos. And they go to Jesus, and they say, look, we got to send these people away. There's a town, but it's going to be a while to get there. It's going to get dark. And as you know, when we're out here, when it gets dark, it gets a little dangerous. We got to send these people away so that they can get some food. We've got to do it now. Just like we are today. We see our world, we get a little panicky. We see the critics, we get a little worried. We see the people that are in need, and we don't know how to help them. So we get a little panicky. We tell them that the only way that they can actually get help is to go someplace else. They've got to go someplace else and get the food. They've got to go someplace else and get that special need, because we can't do it here. We can't do it here. We're overflowed. And again, just like in many times with Christ was cool. I'm sorry. He was cool before Dean Martin was cool. And, well, that shows who I think is cool. I'm sorry, but I like jazz. He sits back. And you know that he's got a grin in his face when he says this. He turns to the disciples and he says, well, why don't you give them something to eat? It's that simple. They're hungry. Why don't you feed them? Now, I don't know about you, but when you are in a panic about the world or the trouble or things that are going on, if you are in the midst of chaos, if your world is crumbling down, the last thing you want is somebody calmly saying, well, why don't you do something about it? Gosh, you hate hearing that, don't you? You hate that. Just solve the problem. I don't want to be involved in this. This means conflict, and this means ickiness. I don't want to be icky. I don't like it. Just take care of this. But he says, why don't you feed them? So they start panicking. He says, what do you got? What do you got? And they look. They've been carrying some of this stuff. They've got 5 loaves of bread. 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. Over 500 people. Men plus others. Well, you ever been to a picnic? And you had more than the people expected show up? And you look on the grill and you got 2 hot dogs, a couple of buns? Or it rains? What do you do? What do you do? They're looking at Jesus like he's nuts. Now remember, these are the 12 that just came back from seeing miracles and persecution. They just came back on their own merits, carrying nothing with them, spreading the good news, healing the sick, being turned away, but seeing miracles and seeing good things happen. They just came back, and they've already kind of forgotten what faith is really all about. It doesn't take long. We can preach here on Sundays. I can get right into your face and I can say, the good news, here's what God's all about. This is the good news. And you come back and you think, oh, this is not bad. He paces a lot, but he's weird, but he keeps us awake. So this was good. I feel good about myself. Monday rolls along and then it's just, oh, this world just stinks. I hate it. Where is God? Why aren't people doing this? This president's a bonehead. Why is he doing this? We immediately look at our basket and we see that we don't have enough food. And we start to panic. We start to worry. We start to think that it's something that we have to do, and we don't have the resources to do it. We start to have that moment where the psalmist is saying, we're in trouble. We are in such trouble. And you can bet that there were many emotions going on with those disciples. There were some that were absolutely scared. There were some that I'm sure saw that the crowd was getting a little ugly, and they're probably just hiding back there. I don't want to have any part in this. And there's others that are probably blaming the people. Well, you followed us out here. What'd you expect? A buffet? This isn't Denny's. This is a hill. It's your own fault. You should have packed a meat. You should have brought some bologna with you. You didn't bring the hot dogs. You came to the picnic. Why didn't you bring anything? A lot of this stuff going on. A lot of blame, a lot of anger, a lot of stuff like this. Jesus, though, is showing us a different way to think about it. If you want to be a Christian, we have to think differently. We have to think that when somebody brings you chaos, you do not fight back by giving them chaos. You exchange that chaos for love. That's what you do. Somebody gives you a hard time, you do not pass on the hard time. You take that, give it to Christ, and then pass on love. That's the change that we give back. And that's what Christ did. He said, give me what you got. They put it into a little basket here. Somehow, he blessed it. A lot of the movies, they show him holding it over his head, and suddenly there's an orchestra out in the field, and they're playing this big music, and birds are flying through the air, and people are looking all, and then suddenly he brings back this, ta-da! He's got a thing there, and it's just full of stuff and things. He's got, not only does he have fish and bread, but he's got white bread, he's got gluten-free, and he's got fish sticks and tartar sauce, and everybody's happy, and they're just spreading it all around. The Bible doesn't tell us how he does it because it's unimportant. Because what we're left with is that he did it. He did get enough food to feed over 5,000 people. And to have some left over. They collected what was left over and they took it with them. Imagine starting out with just a little morsel of food. Tons of people out here, and at the end of the day, you've got leftovers. How's it work? See, this is our problem here today. When somebody does something like this, we want to know, well, how was that done? Show me. Prove it. Because I can't do that. But what Christ is telling us is, yes, you can. What Christ is telling us by the very first thing that he said. Remember, he did not say, oh, you're out of food? Well, let me take care of it. The first thing that he said is, well, then why don't you give them something to eat? You see, there's between those that need Christ and Christ himself, he has placed the disciple, which is us. It's a huge responsibility. It's one that a lot of us really don't want. But what he's telling us is that when our basket is empty, feed them. When we think that we're entirely worn out with this world, give them something to eat. When we hate our neighbor and don't think that they're deserving to come in these doors, Christ is saying, feed them. When we want to put our own spin on things with our own government, Christ is saying, feed them. And he starts everything with a blessing. He starts everything with the nutrients that they needed with a blessing. The funny thing is that if you even just look at the things that the symbolicness of the things that he was giving the people. Bread, a staple, something that was very much in a very common thing then. Something that sustained them, something that a lot of people had, and the poor, the rich alike, had that as their nutrients. It was what kept them energized. Fish, something that you have to go out and get. Something that Christ used as a metaphor when he first called Peter and said, come with me and make fishers. I will make you a fisher of men. He did it again with this. You see, the feeding of the 500, 5,000, however many people it was, we only have the count of the men. More women show up to church anyways, so you know it was huge. The miracle wasn't that he just made multiplied food. The miracle wasn't that he turned a quick shop into a huge buffet. The miracle was that he saw all of these people, critics, people that were unbelieving, the curious, people that were in desperate need, people that were in mourning, people that were just there because it was the thing to do. The miracle was that he saw all of them equally. The miracle is that he, knowing that the world was in chaos, knowing that there were psalms at that time of people that were saying that the world is just gone to hell, and he showed us how to fix it. He showed us what to do about it. So the next time that we are feeling like chaos is going on in our lives, the next time that we feel like things are happening in our world, the next time that we think that the government is just full of the devil itself, feed them. Bless them and do something about it, which means be the person that comes to church all the time. Be the person that falls on their knees. Be the person that knows some of that Bible stuff that we keep preaching. Be the representative of Christ himself. And spread it and feed the people. And the next time somebody comes to you and says, I don't like what you're doing. I don't like you. Give them love. Give them the respect. Give them a God that actually said, as you persecute me, as you come after me, as you say you don't like me, take more. Take more of me. Take my body. Take my blood. Give to them. This world is too full of anger. It's too full of resentment. It's just too filled with eye for an eye. It's too filled with judgment. It's too filled of finger pointing. What it needs is what it yearns for, what this very world sustains itself by, the actual bread and the fish of this world, and that is love, peace, forgiveness, and grace. That's what we learn from communion. Communion is a time that when even sinners and people that were betraying Christ were at the table, he said, take advantage, have more. As Christians, there will be people that will take advantage of us all the time. There will be people that will judge us. There will be people that won't have anything to do with us. And what Christ is saying is give them more. Let them take advantage. My God, let them take advantage. If your church, if your spirit, if your Christianity is the best thing in town, then put out that welcome mat and invite whoever needs to come to get it. We're a community. We are the people on the mountain right now. We are the people. We are the church. We are the world right now. I'm not going to sing it, don't worry, but we are the world. The problems that we need to solve in our world start in this family right here. The issues that we have in our nations, in our church, right here at home, in things in our very personal lives, the healing starts right here. The healing starts with this right here. God never said, yeah, go after them. Get them for all they got. Send them away. It was their own fault. Fight them back. They punch you, punch them back. No. He said, as you persecute me, take everything that I have. Take my love and take my grace. I invite us all to really feel that today, that we are a community, that we are the family of Christ, that we are the solution. It's right in here. It's right in the church. When you wonder what's wrong with the world, the solution is right here. As we take this, I invite us to ask Christ, how am I part of that? How am I part of that?